My call to action for less Zoom meetings seems to have struck a nerve with a couple of people. And by that, I mean a resounding yes, please, less Zoom calls. And I think we've reached that point now that we're 3 or 4 weeks into work from home where people are really starting to get annoyed or fatigued by Zoom calls. And I want to just unpack that a little bit for you. I had a great conversation with Rachel Randolph yesterday, who's another communications expert, and we were talking about why do people feel the way that they do about Zoom calls. And here's what you need to understand. Zoom calls can feel really intrusive to people who have any type of anxiety. And that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, even when you're in a room with people in your meeting, you don't feel quite as under the spotlight as you do when you're sitting face to face with your computer, kind of trapped in a grid of Brady Bunch squares that you are in a Zoom call. So that alone, just kind of that restriction of not being able to really move around or manage your space can help people feel a little anxious. Secondly, people who normally would sit back in a meeting and maybe not participate as much feel like they're very much put on the spot here. So a couple of things for managers that are having Zoom meetings: pay close attention to who you're hearing from the most. And more importantly, pay attention to who you're not hearing from at all. People that may be uncomfortable or feeling anxious may really withdraw during these Zoom calls. And just be mindful of that. Ask questions, ask people specifically to contribute if there are people that are either shutting down or aren't contributing at all. You don't want to put anybody on the spot, but you want to make sure that you're asking for that feedback. The other thing to keep in mind is most people are taking Zoom calls from their homes. I have a random menagerie of stuff behind me. This is my real life. I'm sharing a desk or office space with my daughter right now. So that's her work area. This is my work area. And people don't always feel comfortable having that intimacy of having somebody basically come into their home, whether it's virtually or otherwise. And then there's all sorts of like socioeconomic differences that can be brought to light that people aren't comfortable with. There's a fear of judgment of having people come into your space. There's a lot of reasons why somebody might not feel comfortable being on a video Zoom call. So if you are someone who is just constantly thinking, oh, we're just going to jump on Zoom, just maybe don't. Maybe do an email or do a conference call or find another way. And this is coming from someone who thinks reading nonverbal communication is one of the most important things you can do. I'm telling you, challenging you, please exercise a little grace, a little awareness for the experience that everyone else on your Zoom call is having during those moments. If you want more tips like this, you can find me at powerbodylanguage.com or schedule a webinar with your team on how to manage these kind of things. I would love to have that conversation with you. So be careful with your Zoom calls. Use them sparingly. Appreciate the experience that you're creating for other people by calling those types of meetings, and only use it when it's actually the appropriate tool for what you're trying to get accomplished.